The new year is often when we make getting organized a priority, whether it's our finances or our closets. But it's also important to organize something that we probably don't like to think about, our end-of-life plans. In today's Injuries Are Personal, attorney Carl Reynolds is here to discuss wills. What happens to your property and your estate in Florida, Carl, if you die without a will?
Well, there's two processes in which property passes on to your heirs. One is in the court system. It's court monitored. It's called probate. And then there's one where it's outside the court system, and that would be non-probate. Okay? So if you die without a will and you own property in your own name, it's not co-owned with someone else, it's not a life insurance beneficiary situation. If you own property in your own name, then and you don't have a will, it's called you died intestate, which means you're without a will. And then the Florida law determines where your property goes.
Whoa.
Yes. So you won't control who gets your property.
Wow.
It'll be up to the Florida law intestate laws, correct?
What do they usually do with it?
Well, the way it works is typically if you are married and your spouse survives you, all your assets go to your spouse. Okay? If you have children, and both you and your spouse die simultaneously, go down in a blaze of glory in a traffic accident or a plane goes down, then all your assets would go to your children. If you don't have children or grandchildren, then it actually goes to parents. And if parents don't outlive you, then you have siblings at that point.
Wow, that sounds very complicated, especially in today's world where there's so many blended families.
And that's where the catch comes. And that's why it's important, you know, we set these New Year's resolutions, and we're talking about getting healthier, eating better, financial goals, but a lot of people don't think about legal needs. But one need is to make sure you have a will in place to determine where your property goes, especially if you are part of a blended family. So let's give an example. Let's say my first spouse, we're divorced, and I have a new spouse, but I have children with my former spouse, okay? Well, if you die without a will, your new spouse, even though you may love that new spouse and want everything to go to that, it won't all go to that new spouse. 50% will go to your children, 50% will go to your spouse.
That sounds very complicated.
And if you are the new spouse's children, if you wanted things to go to them, if you die without a will, nothing goes to your new spouse's children. It only goes to your children and to your new spouse.
So if you make a will, you can change this? You can
Absolutely. You
make
can
it your way?
You can make it your way. You know, for example, and it's particularly important when you have special family heirlooms. You can determine where that, you don't want fighting between the new spouse, the children, and things like that. If you have an estranged adult child that may be married, you know, someone or is a black sheep or is well taken care of, you don't want them to inherit anything, you have to make sure you have a will in place. So yes, it'll determine where things go, who gets what, and in what order.
In my household, it's my husband's NFL footballs.
Oh, okay.
So I've seen more fights over things.
I've seen families ripped apart, and so that's why it's part of, you know, we're talking about getting closets and working on your health and things like that. This is an important thing. You need to have it. And if you want to avoid the court system altogether, there's ways to do that as well. You can own property with rights of survivorship. You can have life insurance beneficiaries. You can have 401k beneficiaries, that sort of thing, to avoid the court system altogether. Bank accounts, very important to have someone sign on as a bank account so that when you pass, it goes directly to them and you don't have to wait for it to go through the court system and have the fights over who gets what and that sort of thing.
Because that can ruin your memory too. I don't want my kids to be hating me for the next 50 years because what I did without a will.
Correct, correct. It's just a smart thing to do. And there's also ancillary to that is you ought to have a healthcare directive or a living will.
Oh, yeah.
There's a situation, sad case, Terry Schiavo case, where it made the news. There's umpteen amount of lawsuits associated with it. It even went to the Supreme Court. And basically, it determines under what circumstances you want your life prolonged and that sort of thing. So it's important to get both.
And it's so easy to do, to get that will. Pick up
really
the phone right now,
Right.
and you'll be sorry.
Absolutely.
For more information about any of your legal questions, go to injuriesarepersonal.com. We'll be right back.